Hey everyone, you're with Matthew, you're at the hub, and you're in the teaching instruction segments. And I kind of have to apologize in advance because in some of these segments, I'm going at some of the root core ideas and shifts in thought that allowed me to see how yoga can be shared with everyone. And there are things that I came to yoga as a philosopher of consciousness in graduate school, and graduate school didn't want any philosophers of consciousness because that wasn't really allowed. And so one of the things that yoga has showed me over the 28 years of me practicing are certain very core insights about what it is to live in and through both mind and body. And there's a reason why we're called Mind-Body Solutions, is because I really have been, for my whole practice, not just studying yoga and asana, but trying to get insights about what it is to have a mind, what it is to have a body, what it is to have a nervous system. And I think this level of thought process will help you share yoga with everybody. At least it has me. So here's going to sound kind of strange, but I believe that in our mind-body relationship, with our nervous system, that when we talk about mind and body, I want to switch and think about how life form manifests, life energy manifests, right? So because that's one of the things near the hub of the wheel, is that no matter what student you have in front of you, right, they are a life force that's manifesting through their body. And I think it's really important to start to be able to really think near the hub of the wheel about what parts of human being and how energy and life force manifests and its relationship to emptiness, but that'll be for another segment. So I believe that if you think about a mind-body relationship, and especially the physical organism that is a human being, I believe that it's useful to describe the spine or the core of our manifestation as the core or near the hub of the wheel of our life force. So the spine and then the nervous system that comes out from the spine and the organs that are actually all tucked around the spine, that the organ of your life force, the one that delivers it at its root, then out through the limbs, is the spine. So I believe the spine is the organ of connection. Now, I'm going to come back and say more of that, but your spine, in my opinion, is manifesting life force in every direction all the time. It's like a beacon that's sending out energy in every direction. It just so happens that evolution, our limbs formed a certain way because it was evolutionarily beneficial. So your spine is emanating in every direction. And it is more connected to the world, to existence, to the space around it than your mind. Your mind has a different kind of sensation. I believe that if the spine is the organ of direct connection between life force and the world, the mind is actually the organ of disconnection, that it's able to separate and disconnect from experiences. Right now, it's a little bit after lunch, and I'm really happy that I'm not having to consciously digest my food. My mind is thinking about what I'm saying to you, and my body and the life force that I have is processing new energy. That my mind, in order to say these words to you, to interact with the world, has to separate from the object. Now, I think this is part of why yogis are so, and yoga philosophy is so into the distinction and the duality that they ultimately think is an illusion between subject and object. But what I want to say about mind, right, is that it's supposed to be an organ of disconnection, that it separates you from your direct experience, and that sensation of having a mind, the sensation of being separate, is essential for so much of human innovation. But it also has implications for how you teach yoga. That there are times where you want to give instructions, and there are times you don't want to give instructions, where you don't want to engage the mind too hard, where you want them to experience the movement of their awareness through their body. I also think it's amazingly paradoxical when you say what you think that mind, that presence, your presence here as a life force is somehow enhanced, or you never intend to be present. Your mind is functioning as a separating energy, which is a transformative separation, but it's never going to be the direct access to presence. I think this is why, in my opinion, why I imagine Patanjali was talking about settling the oscillations of the mind. So another level of unity can appear, because the mind will not be able to see and experience unity with what's around it, because of it's an organ of disconnection. So this interaction between the organ of connection, I think that this is what is emanating. In my opinion, like, to me, one of the times in the last 28 years I looked at Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, the drawing, and all the circle around him, and it was all geometrical. But I think that as an artist, that Da Vinci, I imagine that Da Vinci was also drawing an orb, that the energy is going in every direction. Now, this seems like, oh, this is a nice thought, but I think it's crucial to help to teaching someone with amputation. I think it's crucial to help someone realize what balance is as a sensation, as opposed to as a physical accomplishment. Because think of someone that's twisted in their body through like cerebral palsy, and they're never getting that level of integrated balance that's going to come directly through their limbs. You have to help them see a way to be balanced in space and in their body in a way that's very different than someone that can stand directly upright. So these things that seem like they're philosophical and abstraction, so are not. They're actually at the foundation of how you start to share yoga near the hub of the wheel. One of the ways, like take cerebral palsy for an example, that what that is, that's, part of your brain, maybe there's a birth trauma, maybe it happens earlier, not enough oxygen, but a little part of the brain gets damaged, and then its ability to, the connections to the muscles and how the muscles fire through the body are unequal, so you might have one thing that's flexed all the time and the opposing muscle not working. All of these things become out of whack. But one of the things I like to say to my students that have cerebral palsy or even MS or any kind of neurological problem, right, is that the energy of their spine. I'm thinking of one of my students of a lifetime, Chris Becker, who's got pretty severe cerebral palsy, right? That the energy of his spine, the life force manifestation that travels through his spine and then out through his body, his spine does not have cerebral palsy. All the potential energy of his manifestation is still there. It's not being able to find congruent and easy expression out through his limbs because he's got contractures and misalignment. So when I look at a student, let's say Chris, and I think more, instead of trying to get him into poses, I'm actually trying to think about how do I help the life force, the organ of connection that's happening, the energy that's coming through his spine, how do I help that sense connect out through the limbs? How do I help him expand through his chest, even though he can never straighten his arm all the way out here? How do I help someone that's got a really bad shoulder injury that can't lift their arm? I'm thinking of another student, Sammy, who hopefully you'll meet here on the hub as you'll meet Chris, who has got pretty high quadriplegia that can only lift her arms like this. I want her to extend from her spine out beyond her arms, out through the elbows, straight out, and get her a sensation of expansion, right, without having to have her arms go out straight. So this idea that your spine is the manifestation of the life force energy, and your brain and your mind just organize it. Remember, our spines came first evolutionarily, I think, and then the spinal cord grew and all this nervous system, and all of a sudden this big hunk of flesh came up on the top of the spine and thought it was in charge. The primordial life force comes more through the spine. And what happens at that level is more integrated and connected to the space around you. And there's a reason why Patanjali was trying to get the oscillations of this is my opinion, the oscillations of the mind, the overactive monkey mind, as some traditions call it, to settle down so a world of unity and integration and belonging can happen. All these things are in play when you're helping mind-body relationships, students, realize yoga near the hub of the wheel, near the hub of the manifestation and unity of life force. And mind's disconnecting ability is valuable and needs to be brought in service of connection. I told you it's going to get a little philosophical. Love to hear your comments. I'd like to hear if it even makes sense to you. Your spine and your nervous system expand in every direction. Your mind has to judge. Till next time at the Hub.